Welcome to the second video in a 4-part series on configuring rooms and equipment groups for the AutoFlex Connect. If you haven't watched the first video, you should probably go and watch that now, as there is some background and introduction information in there. There will be a link to that in the description of this video down below. So, hopping right into number 2. First, we're going to start off, we're going to create a second room. So I will just call it room 2. And then in here, we are going to add some new equipment groups. So we are going to add a cooling. This will just be a traditional staged ventilation style equipment group. So we will just call this let's call it room 2 vent. And then we are going to add in a heat mat group that we'll call room 2 mats. And finally, we will add our lighting group, room 2 lights. All right, so again, we've created the different equipment groups. So now I'm just going to use, let's use the heat mat one. We can use that. And then click here to go to the configuration. So looking at this, I'm going to start off with the lights, and then I'll move on to mats and ventilation as far as assigning equipment to it. So for our lights, let's go ahead and just assign an RM4 output. So this, we're going to assign it as a timed event. So we have on-off lights, maybe hallway lights that you want to turn on when your employees come in, and then have them turn off when the employees leave the barn. So we will just call these hallway lights and timed events. Perfect. So we will save that. Maybe there's some lights in room 2 itself. So I will just call these room 2 lights. Throw those down. So then, let's move on to our heat mats. So for heat mats, I'm going to scroll over here. I've got a expansion 6 box attached here. So I've got a few more modules. So for the heat mats, I'm going to go ahead and assign this variable AC as a heat mat 1K, and just call it room 2 mats. We will save that. Then let's look at the room 2 ventilation. Let's see here. So we've got some RM4 and VDC4. Let's just stay. Yeah, we got lots to play with here. So in normal ventilation for relays, we've got all sorts. We've got normal cooling fan, so this is would be our room 2 fixed fan. Whoops. Can do that guy. And then maybe we want a cooling duty cycle. So we want a fan. Maybe we want to use a fixed fan to kind of circulate the air, almost like an idle fan. But because we have a fixed fan, we need to just turn it on and off in a duty cycle. So let's call that. Let's call it room 2 idle. Let's Let's call it room 2 duty fan. And what else? Maybe we have misting and fogging. Maybe we have misting and fogging. And so for misting and fogging cooling, there are, once you select misting and fogging, then you get this function drop down. You can select, is it a mister, is it a fan, is it a pump? So you can select any of these that it is operating for your misting and fogging operation. Let's just say this is a mister, and we can do room 2 mist. And then let's do one that is a pump. Room 2 pump. We also have actuators. So in here, like with the vent grid, we can call this our room 2. Let's shorten that north curtain. We'll just throw it in as an actuator. And I'm going to throw it in as no feedback so we're not getting too many alarms because I don't have the actual equipment connected to these modules currently. But this one is the room 2 curtain, so that's good. And then I was going to show air curtains. So there is the option to control air curtains. So this one, we will say room 2 curtain 1. So our airbag position is number 1. Our inflation order is number 1. Let us create an east curtain that we will assign this to. And so right now we got airbag 1, position 1. So then this guy is going to be curtain number 2. So this guy, airbag position, is going to be second. And it's also going to inflate second. So we will be inflating from the bottom up. And so this is the second bag. And so this shows the position and then the inflation order. And let's just throw one more in there. If we would have a third airbag in that curtain. And there we go. And then the final thing that we might want to add into our just standard staged ventilation cooling would be we might have some variable cooling fans on our using our VDC outputs. So let's just call those room 2 var fan. And room 2 var fan 2. Variable cooling. And there we go. So we now have in our lighting group back on the main page, we've got some on-off lights that we'll have to make a schedule for, 2 different groups. Then for our heat mat equipment group, here in our expansion box, we've got one variable AC module controlling that master mat and any sub mats that are coming off of that. And then in our ventilation group, we've got various fans, misters, pumps, curtain machines. We've got a bank of 3 air curtains, as well as some variable fans controlled with the VDC4 output. And so there is a wide variety of equipment that you can assign, and is going to be all for part 2. In part 3, I will take a look at how to put in sensors and how we assign sensors to the different equipment groups, and then we will go from there. So that ends part 2.